Here. Today we'll be going over CSS Transform property, and on our HTML we'll have a simple h1 header of newbie.js, and we'll have a div with the ID of box1 and hi written inside the box. And going into the CSS, we just align in the header and font size so it can be seen easily, and then our box so we can go over transform. Okay, we have a border, 1 rem solid black, width and height is 250 pixels, font size is 225 pixels so we can see the hi word, and text align, which puts it in the middle of the box. Background color so we can see it a lot easier is aquamarine. And now we're going to go over translateX and translateY. Okay, translateX, which is the x-axis, moves right. Okay, using a transform, and then translateX 50 pixels. As you can see, we shut it off, it goes back to the left side, and then we turn it back right, it will move it over 50 pixels. Okay, now to move it up and down, which would be the y-axis, we would use transform, translate 50 pixels would make it go down. Okay, and negative 50 pixels would make it go up. Okay, that's normal space. Negative 50 pixels goes up, and then normal spot 50 pixels down, which would be a positive number, 50 pixels. Next we have the shorthand version of translate, would be X and Y, so we would use transform, translate, and then we would use 50 pixels, comma, 50 pixels. Okay, so what this is doing is it's using the x-axis first in the first number, and then the second number is the y-axis. So if we were to change this to minus, it will go back to the left 50 pixels. Okay, now if we would change the second one to 50 pixels, it would go up 50 pixels, as you can see. Okay, once again, that's transform, translate, shorthand version, 50 pixels dash 50 pixels. Okay, now moving on to rotate, transform, rotate, X, Y, and Z. Okay, the first one we'll be working on is the x-axis, which will flip down or flip up 180 degrees. Okay, so we'll turn it on, flip, transform, rotate X 180 degrees, it flips down. Now if we were to put it a negative 180 degrees, it would flip up, but the word would still be facing down because the normal version is facing up to begin with. Okay, so if we had 0, that's 0, it flips forward with 180 degrees. Okay, meaning the word will be upside down still. Now if you do it negative 180 degrees, it flips backwards and the word will still be upside down. Okay, so if we did something like 45, see how it looks smaller? That's because the card is flipping towards you instead of just 180 degrees, which is halfway. Next one we'll be doing the y-axis, which is flip left or flip right. Okay, so flipping right 180 degrees, the H will be on this side. Now if we were to put a negative 180 degrees, it would still be that same thing because we're still flipping it. It's just flipping left that way though. So if we did 100 degrees instead, see how it looks different? we're still flipping left or flipping right. Back to 180 degrees, and when we take it back out, the normal thing is the right way. Next we'll be rotating left or rotating right, okay, which is the z-axis. So we're going to use transform rotateZ 180 degrees, which would rotate it right 180 degrees. But what we're going to do is we're going to use 45 so you can see the difference. Okay, so putting it back on, as you can see, it rotated right 45 degrees. If we wanted to rotate left, as you can see, 45 degrees, the card rotates left. Okay. Now, putting it back to normal. Now we have scale. scaleX, scaleY, and scaleZ. Okay. So the first one we'll be using is the default size, which does nothing. It's not scaling it. It's a default size. Okay. It's off right now. And as you can see, now that it's on, it's the same thing. Okay. Size 1 is default. As you can see down here, the size scale, 1 equals default, 2 equals 200%, 3 equals 300%. Okay. So next we're going to use transform scaleX 2, which would be scaling it 200%. Now as you can see, it scales left and right 200%. We'll take it back out. Normal, scaled x-axis, which is left and right. Okay. Now we're going to transform scaleX 3, which would be 300%. As you can see, scaled left and right 300% now. Okay. Now we have transform scale Y axis 2, so it'll be transform scaling the y-axis, which would be up and down 200%. Instead of going left and right, now it goes up and down. Normal, scaled up and down 200%. Okay. Now we have our shorthand, which we can do scaleX and scaleY. So now we're scaling. We're using transform scale 2, 3. Okay. So what that means is we're scaling 200% left and right. Okay. And then we're scaling 300% up and down, which is the y-axis. So 200% on the x-axis and 300% on the y-axis. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll put this so you can see the difference, because 1 is default, so the first digit is 2. We're scaling 200% left and right. But if we put 1, it's normal again. Okay, because as we discussed it earlier, 1 is default. So if we put 1, 1, it is the natural state. If we put 1, 2, now we're scaling up and down. If we put 2, 1, we're scaling left and right 200%. Okay. So you gotta remember the size scale. 1 is default, 2 is 200%, 3 is 300%. Now we have skew. Okay. We'll be working on transform, skew, X, and Y. The first one we'll be doing is the x-axis, which will be transform skew X 45 degrees. As you can see, which is the x-axis, would be left and right. So you see how a plus turns left, and then a negative will turn towards the right. Okay. So block that one out. Now we're gonna use the y-axis. We'll use a transform skewY 45 degrees. Okay, so now what will happen is it will skew 45 degrees on the y-axis. If we put a minus 45 degrees, it will skew the opposite way on the y-axis. Now we also have the shorthand for skew X and Y, which is the same thing as above. And as you can see, we barely can make it out, but let's put something normal here and we'll add to it. So we got 0, we got our natural state. The first one is the x-axis. We're gonna skew 10 degrees. Okay, you see how it turned left 10 degrees or minus 10 degrees. Okay, we'll go with the left 10 degrees. Now for the second one is the y-axis. We'll do 20 degrees. Okay, and we'll try a negative 20. Now it's turning on the y-axis, which is left or right, and this one would turn back and forth. Put 80. See? There's many things you can do. It's spinning the picture. Let's put negative 40, as you can see, and that's the shorthand for skew. Now we can use a shorthand for all of them, okay, which is the matrix. Okay, and what we would do is we would do a transform, okay, and then we would do a matrix, okay. Now the numbers is gonna be 6 numbers always. Where was it? Did I have it on here? No, I didn't. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep, 6. Okay, so we'll make our 6 digits here. So we got 3 and 3. That's our 6 digits, okay? So, in order, our list in order stands for each digit, okay? So, scaleX, which would have to be a minimum of 1, okay? And also scaleY, which would have to be another minimum of 1, which is the 4th digit, which is default, okay? So if we put it to 2, we would scale 2. Okay, so 1 is default. Okay, so now we have our default state, okay? If we scale the X 200%, which is the first digit, it'll scale left and right, okay? If we take the 4th digit, scale Y, which is the minimum 1, also is default. If you put it to 2, it will scale up and down 200%. Okay, so we'll put that back down to 1, which is default. Now the second digit is skewY. Okay, which it will flip it right, skewY. Okay, I'll do 5. Here we go, you can see it. Okay, it will turn left or right. Now the third digit is scaleX. Okay, it will turn up or down. Okay, now third digit by default has to be 1, 2, or 3. I'm going to change this one to 1, which is translateX. Okay. And as you can see, it moved over 10 pixels. And if we change it back to 0, it goes back to the original position. And left, which was translate y-axis, it will go down. Okay, we'll do 30, which goes down. Or we can bring it go up with a negative. Okay. Original state, we can make it go right 30, or negative 30 and go left, or 0 original state. Okay, this is the shorthand for all of the translate, the rotate, skew. Thank you for taking a look. I hope you learned something new. Link will be in the description. UBJ out.